Hey guys, I'm Clever, and today I want to talk to you about a serious issue and something that has a deep personal connection to my life. I've written this out, so if you see me looking away, I am reading off the screen because I don't want to forget anything and I don't really want to ramble on. Mental health these days is a hot topic. Some people believe mental health issues are no big deal and suggest people who deal with them are mentally weak or inferior in some way. On the other side of the spectrum, there are people who place mental health issues on par with diseases like cancer. In light of the Anthony Bourdain situation, I felt like I needed to share my story and air out some of what I've dealt with in my life. I've always been happy. My earliest memories are all good. Even when things were bad, I had a sunny disposition, and I still try to keep that to this day. However, that doesn't mean I don't have lows. Since I was about 13 or 14 years old, I've been living with obsessive-compulsive disorder, or OCD for short. Most people have a somewhat muddled understanding of what OCD is and what the term really covers. Some people think it just means people can't have a picture crooked or they have to tap their pencil 3 times before they write. But OCD can have far more alarming and upsetting symptoms than rituals or nervous tics. For a lot of people, they can have invasive, repetitive thoughts. Imagine when you get a song stuck in your head, but instead of being a song and lasting a day, you have the unceasing thought that someone is trying to kill you, and it lasts weeks, months, or years. For myself personally, when everything started, it seemed like it was no big deal. I always had a thing about being clean, so when I started washing my hands 20 or 30 times a day, I could kind of chalk it up to, oh, I'm just being clean. When I started needing picture frames to be level, it was looked at as a cute little quirk. And progressively, the system of obsession began to grow until I reached a personal crisis. I went from wanting to be clean to being a straight-up germaphobe. I couldn't be in the same house or class with someone who was sick. I had to cover my face whenever I had to be with someone. I couldn't share food if someone touched it. And on top of that, I developed routines that I had to follow religiously or my mind would race. I developed social anxiety to the point being in the spotlight could potentially make me faint. It was so bad I couldn't speak to people, and I alienated a large section of my friends, even my family. This was bizarre to me because I always loved being the center of attention. I loved being goofy and making people laugh. That was gone for a long time. Talking on the phone went from a normal practice to pure dread. To this day, I still actually struggle speaking on the phone with strangers. But perhaps worst of all was the depression I faced. As someone who was always happy, always a comedian, to feel sadness for seemingly no reason really bothered me. I just wanted to feel normal, and I lived this way every day until I was about 15. My condition started affecting my family. I began having irrational thoughts, and I was convinced by a repeated and droning thought that my family was trying to poison me. Now, before I go any further, even at the time I was going through this, I knew no one in my family would ever try to kill me. I knew these thoughts were irrational, and yet I couldn't help but acknowledge them. It was a compelling voice in my head going non-stop. It was like I was 2 different people, and I actually felt crazy. I felt like I was losing my mind, and I was devastated. It became too much to handle. I was barely eating or drinking anything, and finally, after I was confronted by my parents, I broke down. I cried for hours, then the next day I went to a doctor, and then a psychiatrist to try to understand what I was dealing with. I was diagnosed with OCD, and while that wasn't surprising, at least it was professionally confirmed, and then I was prescribed medicines to try and help me. For a while, the medicine worked in the sense my anxiety was curbed and I was leading a somewhat more normal existence. However, I knew something was still off. I felt tired all the time, and my depression was getting worse. I didn't feel like myself anymore, and it was then that I made a decision that changed my life forever. I threw away my medicine and decided to attack this head on. I was 17 now and more prepared for what I was up against. As a warning to anyone watching who is prescribed medication for anything, do not, I repeat, do not for any reason stop taking medicine prescribed by a professional without consulting with them first. My results do not guarantee you will have a similar outcome. When I was off the medication, I noticed I wasn't dealing with the symptoms as harsh as the ones I was when I was 15. So I basically forced myself to do things outside of my comfort zone, things that made me come close to a breakdown. But I noticed with each task I completed, I was building a better mindset, and each stepping stone was becoming easier for me. It felt like it went from my thoughts controlling me to me controlling my thoughts in a way. I never truly beat OCD. I still have symptoms. I still have bad days where my anxiety is off the charts or my germophobia kicks into high drive. But I'm able to function as normal or really close to normal every day. I'm able to work through and overcome the symptoms every day. I'm making progress and I'm getting better every day. For me, it's about working at it, and it's hard sometimes. It's so hard, but I know it's worth it, and I know I have to keep fighting against it. Today I can unequivocally say I'm happy and not depressed, and this is hard for me to come out and tell people. This is hard for me to talk about. It's not something I'm necessarily comfortable with, but if I can help someone out that is dealing with what I went through, that would be one of the best gifts I could ever give myself in a way. So that brings me to the next part I wrote. Why bring this up? With Anthony Bourdain, and I actually have a great story about him that I'll save for another day. He lost the battle with mental health that millions and millions of people are fighting every day. I've lost friends and a couple family members to suicide, and I want to tell people it's not a joke. It's not something to make light of. I want to tell people sometimes there's absolutely nothing you can do to prevent it. And I also want to tell people sometimes all someone needs is a smile, a kind word, a hug, a few minutes of your day, or support to seek the help they need. People inherently feel weak dealing with their own mental health. There's no way around it. I felt this big when I finally admitted I had a problem, but I had a support system that plenty of others don't have. Be kind to people. It's not that hard, and it could change someone's entire outlook on life. Sometimes it's the little things that mean the most. One of my favorite quotes by Ralph Waldo Emerson is, "You cannot do a kindness too soon, for you never know how soon it will be too late." Well, guys, thank you for indulging me in this video. I know this isn't the typical content I create here, but nonetheless, I felt it was an important video to make. I swear I'll get back to the butthole show and everything else as soon as possible. Oh, God. If it reaches one person that's going through anything and helps them out in any way, then I'm more than happy to do this, and it was worth every single second. If any of you, and I'm talking to anyone who watches this video, anyone you know who is going through anything, just leave a comment on my channel. I'll always be here on Clever Games, and yeah, I'll talk to anyone, because I know what it's like just wanting to hear another side, just wanting to know that someone knows you exist, just wanting to get it out there. I understand. Until next time, guys.